Today's company presentations are brought to you by Red Cloud Financial Services and the team at Red Cloud Vancouver. Red Cloud Financial Services is your preeminent source for mining industry opportunities. The team provides a unique tailored marketing program dedicated to reaching the right people from its mining-focused global network, giving clients access to industry-leading events and conferences, retail and institutional marketing, plus an in-house growth-driven digital agency. Red Cloud Financial Services has access to some of the mining industry's most notable companies and CEOs. Tune in every Thursday at 4:15 p.m. Eastern, 1:15 p.m. Pacific for weekly corporate presentations. For more information, visit redcloudfs.com.
Good morning. Welcome to Digging Deeper. Want to thank Red Cloud for bringing a very interesting, compelling guest on today. This is near and dear to my heart. We're going to be talking about vanadium. Now, I know for some people it's vanadium. What are we talking about? This might sound like Star Wars stuff to you, but this, I hope we're going to do a good job as to explaining why this is such a critical metal. And we're luckily going to be speaking to someone who's in Australia, which is a real hub for not only vanadium discoveries, but for the work in the batteries, which is, we'll get to why that's such a big factor. And it's going to be a great chat to be able to talk about not only this whole sector and the hope that it brings to solving some of the issues that we have in regards to this shift in energy, but also specifically their projects and what the opportunity is with the projects they have. So it's a real pleasure to welcome Mike Griffiths from Currie Rose. How are you doing today?
I'm great, thanks, Andrew, and thanks for the opportunity to spread the word about vanadium. It's a very exciting metal.
It is. It really is. I mean, this it's a tough one because, I mean, people don't hear, especially in North America, very much about it. But the promise that it holds is enormous. And I have an interesting perspective of knowing a little bit about it, and people don't understand how much has progressed in the number of years and where this could be, how it can solve a very critical issue in regards to the solar, the whole green initiative, solar, wind. It solves a big energy problem there in regards to intermittency that maybe you can speak to in a bit. But tell me overall, what's your take on vanadium itself, the market itself, and the ups and downs in the past few years and where it's going in the future?
Okay, look, it's a real interesting metal because traditionally it's been part of an alloy in the steel industry. And so basically consumption right at this very day, 80% of the world's consumption of vanadium is in steels. So it's for alloys. Now, the rest of the market is this really fast growing area in the battery space because there's a method of storage called the Redox flow battery. And the battery needs vanadium in order to hold the charge. So unlike, it's not a competition with lithium, it's not a competition with other metals. This one stands alone because it has the ability of being scaled up. So you can make a small battery that'll run a small town, or you can have a battery that'll run a large mine. It will contain the power that's generated through solar, through wind, through wave, and through hydro. It'll contain all that. And then it'll also allow power to come out in solid bursts. And that's always been one of the problems with the battery space is that, if you've got a big piece of machinery that needs quite a punch, quite a surge in power, none of the other ones can do this. They can't deliver the power that's required, let's just say, to turn a big flywheel on a big ball mill or something like that. Vanadium redox flow batteries, vanadium, the key element, the electrolyte that runs the batteries, that has the ability to do just that. And that's why this is an exciting space to be in.
That's the blue sky area, because I always like to look at things, the fundamentals, as you said, is steel. So I kind of look at it as magic pixie dust. You sprinkle a bit under the steel, makes it lighter, makes it stronger. People go, oh, okay, so it's infrastructure. And especially in the rebar market in China, there's a huge market for it. But you can see, okay, there's a fundamental use, and that is, like you said, 90+% at this point. But the real opportunity and the real exciting part is that growth and the fact that these redox batteries can store energy for like 20 years. That's not corrosive. It's interchangeable. And it solves that intermittency with being able to store when there's night. And like you said, these things aren't like, I'm sure they could probably make a little portable ones today, but really what we're talking about is industrial scale grid, massive things like we have one in China. There's one by Saudi Aramco that they're building one out in the next couple of years. So these are huge, big grid solving, industrial size, city size batteries, not your little Tesla type thing.
No, you're absolutely right, and also the opportunity comes because this is such a stable thing when it's working. So it's not likely to ignite, it's not likely to explode, and you can recycle it. So there's so many advantages in having a battery of this type, and it's actually going to fill a piece of the green energy market that hasn't actually been really considered in a great deal. And this is the best commodity for it, and it's right there at our fingertips. It's already being produced, and all we need to do is basically, instead of channeling everything towards making lighter steel for EV cars, for example, which is also another big area of that there'll be a boom. If we channel it towards the battery storage on a larger scale, it's going to make a serious difference to the green economy.
Yeah, before we jump into your project, I'll even just say that I know as far as Canada, it didn't get a lot of news, but California has adopted this. They have ordered vanadium redox batteries, so they're already thinking. And I always like to see that kind of movement, because it's a signal to go, okay, they're starting to actually start to use these. It isn't. I used to refer to this vanadium space as the Star Trek kind of group, because it sounds like, what? How come I've never heard of this? Well, this sounds too good to be true. But they do work, and there's ones running, and we just need to get the message out that this metal, this vanadium, this is the promise that it holds, that it can solve a lot of these issues that come around with wind and solar, and that storage of energy. And like you said, the lithium can have problems with the flammability. There's not the case. It's recyclable, non-corrosive. I mean, it hits the mark on a lot of things that people would want to hear about, but we just over here, we don't hear about it. We don't hear a lot about it.
The other really good point I need to add right now is that down here in Australia, there's quite a push by the governments to assist. And in our case, we have been blessed because the government of Queensland is currently building and planning to build they're planning to build, and they're getting it all set up at the moment, what's called a common user facility, a pilot plant.
All right.
And they're spending $10 million, and I've been involved in the planning of this as well. And that $10 million is to build a plant, because, oftentimes when you start building mines and things, everything slows down because it gets to the test work stage. Well, the government's gone, oh, hang on a minute. We want to have the Queensland Vanadium Hub. We want to be the world's biggest producer of vanadium in the whole world. And in order to do that, we need to help industry.
Yes.
This is revolutionary. It doesn't happen in any other commodity where you get such assistance this early in the phase. And we're lucky. We're right on the cusp of being right part of that. So that plant should be built within the next 12 months. And we'll be lining up with some samples from drill core and from bulk samples to run them through this plant, so that we can get our test work done and refine our processing, which is really what our project's about, so that we get an advantage again over other parts of the world.
Okay, yeah. So maybe before we jump into specifically the projects, currently what happens is a lot of like vanadium companies, do they have to send product to China for refining, or they can refine, or is that part of the issue?
Yeah, look, it's sort of in two parts. So many of the companies, because what you're trying to do is produce vanadium pentoxide, and vanadium pentoxide can be at 1% or it can be at 98%. At 98%, it's what technically they'll call it a flake, and then that becomes the electrolyte material for the batteries. Now, initially, if you're just producing a concentrate that's only 2%, then what you've got to do is refine it using hydromet processes. And I don't want to bust anyone's head with all this gobbledygook, but effectively at the moment there's nowhere else really apart from in South Africa and China and some smaller plants in other parts of the world on a larger scale. China's got the whole market sewn up, and so that means that all of our critical minerals need to be considered, and people need to think about putting our hand in our own pocket and building the last part of the process, so we can actually take a bit more of the market control and actually make the price drop, because currently it's all sitting with one pair of hands.
Yes. And I mean, I'll throw in, for years, whether it was the Trump administration, the Biden administration, they've acknowledged that vanadium is a key critical metal. They talk about it. I'm waiting to see, hopefully we'll see some movement like this that you're having in Queensland. I mean, that kind of acknowledgement by the government as a partner, that's really exciting. And that's close. Sure, this hub is near your properties.
Yep, that's it. So when you see the map, we're 400 kilometres from the coast, and but we're on the railway line, and there's a big port that can export from, and so there's power, there's rail, there's water, there's everything you need sitting right there, and as I say, it's part of Queensland's growth for this whole region, and they've decided that where we are in here is the hub. That's where they want to create this whole new industry that's sitting in an area that currently is dominated by cattle grazing.
Yeah, and you can see in this map, like we're so close to the port there, and there's lots of other vanadium properties around as well. So it's, like you said, it's a good place to drop a plant in. I guess is the process then you have to kind of apply to the government, because I'm sure everyone's trying to go, hey, will you process our stuff first?
Yeah, that's a good question. So basically, there's a couple of the players in the region have already sort of created their own plant to do this work. So they're sort of a bit further advanced than the others. And then what they were trying to do, and the government's trying to do, is be reasonable so that everybody can have an opportunity. So, and that's why they brought all of the industry players together, and there aren't very many. There's maybe half a dozen, and everybody's in the same room, and everybody's talking, and obviously people will have their own little bent that they want to add a little bit here and a little bit there, because you've got to try and make your product have a little bit of point of difference. And some of them are saying, they're putting their hand up and saying, oh, we think that we can produce high purity alumina out of some of the material that's not wanted for the vanadium. You go, okay, oh, guess what? We've got that as well. And then someone else will go, we've actually a little bit deeper down than you, and you've got, and we've got potentially some hydrocarbon in our process. And we go, well, no, we don't want that, because we're looking at people who don't want to do in the hydrocarbon business.
Yes. So
we're not interested in that. So again, there's a point of difference.
Yes.
And then so what you've got to try and do is look at it, I look at it purely from a processing point of view. What is it that's in our piece of rock, which has got, low strip ratio? It's basically from the surface. We got 84 million tons of this stuff. We've got 70 kilometres of strike of the same material that's hardly ever had a drill hole in it. And, just up the road from us, there's another company that's got 1 billion tons. But how many tons do you need to start?
Yeah.
How many tons?
Yeah.
And even our deposit is based on merely 36 drill holes. So it's not many. Yeah. So it's the geology part. I'm a geologist. I don't want to say this out loud, but in geological terms, that's the easiest part of this project. The hardest part is processing.
Yes. Okay. So walk me through that. So we know you've got it's an astounding number, 84 million tons at 0.3
Yep.
vanadium.
Yep.
And like I mean, this goes on. So, and when you're saying it's literally at surface, how deep are you talking?
We'll only go down
So
to
far?
30 meters.
30
We'll
meters.
only
So,
go
yeah.
30 meters. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the good thing, so this diagram here is really good because what it shows, our resource is the Cambridge resource in red. Now, next door to us, literally, there's a little line between our resource and one called the Lilyvale,
Yes.
which is at least 2 or 3 times bigger than ours. Well, guess what? It's the same ore body.
Okay.
And
Yes.
so, and those guys are in pre-feasibility.
Yeah.
It just so happens I've got a study. I've got a study of what all their work is right
All
here
right.
in my hand.
Yeah.
So then I sort of got a little bit of an idea in my head. Oh, guess what? They're going to get an NP if they cash costs of $5.53 a pound. They're going to make money.
Yes.
Well, guess
Wow.
what?
Yeah.
Guess what it is today? Today's price is about $7.30.
Yeah.
So I already know what I got to do to get it there.
Yes. And that's good too, because historically that's a pretty low price point too. Just so for people, if they don't know, I mean, vanadium can swing wildly, but
Sure.
5 is pretty conservative to have as a price point that you can make money at.
Yeah.
That's very exciting. I mean, and for someone who doesn't know, reach out to me. We can have a chat about it at a later time. But it was important to let people know, like, this isn't like an aggressive by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. So look, that's really one of the key things. So I think in the brief that I was given, it said 3 key things. Well, I've got 3, but within each one of those 3, I've got about 4. So there's so many good things about this project, and we're in the right space. We've got government support, we've got resources, we've got the material itself is soft, it's easily mined. There's so many ticks to that. And then the first time I actually went there, I went to the little town nearby, and I thought, oh, I'm going to get a dirt, bumpy old road 30 kilometres out to the deposit. Well, guess what? It was tarmac. It was a bitumen road.
Oh, wow.
And we are the closest deposit to the coast. So, wow, it doesn't get much better.
Yes. So you've got the infrastructure, you've got a major deposit. You're on trend with right beside you another company who's you've got their work. You're looking at it, so you as a geologist can look and go, oh, like, I see where they're going. They're maybe going into our project, maybe they're not. For someone who's looking at you as an investment, they go, oh, okay, so you are 6 million market cap. Is it easy for a 6 million market cap to have an asymmetric or bigger gain? Or is it $1 billion company? Like, which one can double or triple? Which one can add a lot of value a lot easier and earlier? Certainly, I think the obvious reason is a 6 million one who is got the infrastructure. I assume you've got permitting. You've got the work of the government who's on side.
Yes.
You've got a neighbor here who's got a massive $1 billion tons of rock vanadium to move around into process.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about with your project, the grade, and also the metallurgy, or what that takes? Because, and just to remind people again, like 30 meters, this isn't mining like, like Kirkland Lake where you're going 2 kilometers down drilling and elevator shafts. This is very different type of mining.
Yeah, this is really bulk mining at its greatest. It's basically all oxide material, and as our preliminary network that we have done on our own has said, it's oxide, so it's easy. It's shallow, it's soft, it's friable, so it's not, the report says it could be what we call free dig, which means you don't have to blast it too much, but that there's always going to be some hard spots, but a dozer will do it. It's suitable for pre-concentration, which is really important because that's the first step for a smaller company, is to go to a concentrate, because we can take our 0.3% and run it through some wash jigs, some shakers, and a few milling things, and we'll produce a concentrate that's 1.7, and 1.7 is exportable grade.
Yes.
So that's really, really important. that we can start smaller and effectively get sort of cash flow and all that sort of stuff happening before we have to downstream and get to the electrolyte 98% vanadium pentoxide, which is the dream, right? But
Yes,
we can get there. Yeah. And then, of course, we got extensions. As I've got on the map there, there's extensions, and so we will be able to extend that resource. In fact, I'm working on that right now. So that's part of what we're doing.
So there's so many other questions here, and I just want to remind people, Australia is really a hub for the redox part. So you've got a hungry appetite for usage as well. So if someone says, well, you can maybe make the electrolyte, and does that just go straight back to China? It's like, no. We don't hear about it over here, but the appetite in Australia is big. And I would suggest or think or imagine you're going to hear more about it in North America. I mean, we're going to. For whatever reason, we just are kind of behind the curve a bit. I know the Quebec government is really alongside. They sound kind of like your Queensland. They get it. They know. So hopefully we'll see a bit more promotional stuff from them acknowledging this need. But
the great thing, Andrew, is that Canada's got more free energy than anywhere else in the world.
Yeah.
Water, hydro.
Yeah.
And we got the sunshine, but man, you got the water.
Yes.
And so this sort of process in Canada is just waiting and begging to be put into place.
Yes. And hopefully we'll see that acknowledgement soon. And I'm not sure what that's going to take, but it's these developments and the acknowledgement that the battery side is there and it's working. I'm hoping will encourage people to go, all right, and Canada has deposits as well, but who's really pushing this forward? And right now it is Australia. I mean, they're advancing things very quickly. What's on the table here then? So someone looks at you guys and goes, okay, you've got all these positives going, and it's a tough market right now, but a 6 million market cap, you can move that on some good news potentially quite well with the neighbor. The government's on side. You've got this plant in the next year. There's going to be a lot of critical, fundamental changes in a possible good way. What should someone be looking at in the short term to really kind of think, oh, you know what? You've won me over. I should be looking at you guys.
Okay. Well, I think first thing is we're going to expand our resource. We just want to know exactly what we've got contained in that one particular area, and we'll infill it a little bit, and then we'll be able to potentially cherry pick out of that areas that are higher grade again, so that if we can see, because we've got so much of this stuff, if we can increase the grade that we produce to concentrate to closer to 2%, well, all of a sudden we're different from everybody else, and that's one thing. So it's great. It's almost like grade control drilling. The second thing is that we've already got samples from the previous owners' drilling, where that's all about to be put in for metallurgical test work. I need to have some of my own, even though I've got the study from next door. I want to have my own, because I actually want to do a few things differently, and that's the advantage of coming in, being the Johnny come lately, coming in towards the back end. Yep. I can see, and I've got some good connections in the processing world. I can see what other companies have done, and maybe there's a better way. Maybe there's a better way we can look for things, and that's what I'm trying to. I want to catch up to what everybody else has done, but I also want to do it maybe a little bit cleverer, and that's what I think I bring to the table.
Yeah, maybe if we'll bring up slide 6, because this is a good one, because and I'll just remind people, 36 holes, that's all you've done. Because I'm kind of hinting at this could be certainly a lot bigger whenever you see the slide right next door to this Lilyville resource with the 550 million tons. It isn't too hard to think that you could expand this resource, potentially quite a bit more. A little bit, not to Adam's next. Yeah. There we go. That slide. Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. So yes, we will. We will expand that up, and my guess is that we'll probably sort of get to maybe not quite double what we've got now, but it'll be pretty close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the next slide, slide 7, those two areas that are, they're nearly at the point where I can put a resource around them as well, particularly the Flinders River prospect.
Yes.
That's got 13 holes in it, so
Okay.
it's sort of half done, if you like. And you can see just that's a radiometric image there, and there's no uranium here, but the radiometric signature sits right over the top of the formation, and you can already see, look, there's 3 rows of drilling there. There's at least another 3 rows, and all of a sudden you're looking nearly at the same size again as what we've got down at Cambridge. So that's the opportunity in terms of resources.
And that, once again, to double your resources, that's a big fundamental change as well.
Yes. Yeah.
And you've got these acquisitions; they're completed as well, just as of like a month ago. Like they're all done, completed, sorted.
Yep.
Yep.
Correct.
Permitting.
Permitting is it's just going through the processes to have all of the licenses transferred. Unlike, say, BC, where you do it overnight online, in Queensland there's a process, and you just got the ministerial discretion, and they only never pass things on if I was a criminal or something, and I don't have a criminal record, so there's no problem. It's just a process, and that's all well underway. And we've got licenses that are valid for the next 10 years. And so there's plenty of time to work these up and get them all, smashing out some really good resources. And then there's an ability to hold areas, because if you're mining one area, well, you don't mine everywhere at once.
Yes.
So you're able to actually warehouse some of those as well, so that you're not having to worry about losing your tenure. So there's all sorts of methods to make sure that you've got security.
Excellent. Well, we really appreciate you coming on and talking to us about this market and what you've got going. What should we look for? Once again, it's a tough market, but people are looking, they're watching the sidelines. Sure. This hits a lot of the needs that people want to see. It's solving that intermittency problem. You're part of that pipeline. Is there anything near term that someone could look for to go, what's something that could move this? What's a milestone from the company's perspective, or anything before Christmas or after Christmas? Is there anything that they can kind of go, the price may not be reflected in the stock, but the company is hitting milestones, and so I know that they're on track?
Yeah. So the main milestone is to increase resources this year. That's number one. And so we will, our field season, because it's a bit like in Canada, you've got periods of the year where it's either prohibitive. Well, we've probably got another 2 months, 3 months where we can be in the field, which is great. And then it sort of gets a bit warm in that part of the country. So the drilling and metallurgical work will go into the lab. Met work often, it's like a witch doctory. There sometimes takes a bit longer than you ever think.
Yeah.
But the drilling and the resources, absolutely, and we will work as hard as we can to get some metallurgical results before the end of the year as well.
Excellent. Well, I thank you so much, Mike. I really appreciate you coming on and telling us about the project and about this sector. It's, like I said before, it's one I'm very excited about because it does offer a ton of promise, and not a lot of people talk about it. And I like those types of stories where it's nuanced, it's exciting, and there's a potential for massive growth.
Andrew, thanks so much for the opportunity. I'm hoping that we can light the fire under a few investors to really have a good look at vanadium and look at Currie Rose. We like to have anybody who's an investor join our team, because we think that there's going to be some huge developments over the next 6 to 12 months in this space, and we want to be right at the front of it.
Excellent. Well, have a great day, Mike. I really appreciate it, and take care. Thanks again.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it too. Thank you. Cheers.